Well, good evening, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It is Wednesday, the 1st of July, almost the 4th of July. So it'll be the most interesting 4th of July we've had ever in this strange chaos of the pandemic slash race baiting and rioting and people hating cops, people, it just all this craziness going around. And here we are, humble little old Paris, just I don't know, having a fun time on the air because it's easier this way. Darlene Wink says, I like the flag. Tonight, I'm going to have a very special guest on, a gentleman by the name of DeTemple. He's actually running for Congress, but he's also got a lot of experience in the world, including serving a long time in the U.S. Coast Guard and what have you. So I want to talk to him a little bit about that and what in the world would possess somebody to actually run for Congress. So I'd love to get into his head a little bit. So definitely looking forward to that. He'll come on in a few minutes here, hopefully. I think this is so cool. I can see my broadcast on my iPad right here, and it actually has like subtitles or subtitles. So I wonder if it would do it if I talk in Greek. Egoi me paris prokopis, ke. Let's see. It'll be interesting if it can translate Greek. Nope. All right, I'm being kind of silly right now. So I want to talk about a bunch of things. One of the things I'm going to get into is the evil subject of term limits and everything like that. But first, I mean, we're going through some very, very, very difficult times right now. People have been manipulated by political organizations. You've got a lot of basically the main leadership of BLM. They're outspoken Marxists. They say they're Marxists. So we have like a Marxist revolution happening in our country, and we don't even know it. It's just sad and crazy. I don't know what would possess people to be this way, because I think there are issues that have to be addressed, but to riot and loot and that type of thing, and there's quite frankly a lot of groups like Antifa and stuff like that. It's a bunch of woke white liberals that are doing this, taking advantage of the situation, and good, bad, or indifferent. But feel free to make some comments in the thing. And got Stephanie on. Hello, Stephanie, all the way from Florida. Eric's in the house. Darlene's in the house. And we'll have some more folks. And hopefully Cliff will be kicking in here pretty soon. But I want to show you guys a video. This video is one that caught my attention. And it's a video by the name of C.L. Bryant. It's a clip from his movie Runaway Slave. He has a movie online and that type of thing. Look him up, C.L. Bryant. If you can make a donation to his cause, he's done a great job with this movie. He's talking about the Black community getting off of the Democrat plantation. It's a lot similar, to it was a few years ago, but now the latest version we have is Walk Away. Brandon Strzok had his Walk Away movement. And he's a converted liberal who decided, hey, why am I being lied to? And he did his own research, and he got shunned for it from his own community, which is sad. And we've got El Delgado in the house. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to play this video. And I'm going to grab this. I'm going to share my audio. And here we go. I'm about to. I think it'll just pick it up this way. Cross my fingers. Nope. Oops. Okay. Had a bit of a technical difficulty there. I grabbed the wrong screen. Let's try that one more time. But you got to see this movie. It's only about 2 minutes long, so please indulge me. I really appreciate it. And we're going to go here. And it says, "What does independence mean to you?" From Runaway Slave. Share.
Independence Hall. This is where the Declaration of Independence was signed, and this is where the old white men, as they say, that signed that declaration brought forth a new country. Some of them did own slaves, but God used their heads and their hearts to write words that has made it possible for us to flavor these present day times with the blessings of freedom. I've never been here before. This is a very moving moment in my life to actually stand here, having spoken across the country and about American exceptionalism and about our freedom. My parents and my grandparents, what they would have thought about this place, I'm not really sure, but I do know this. What they would have thought about me being here, doing this, would have been more to them than the words could say. They always wanted something better. My parents, my grandparents, and not only mine, but the ancestors of all of us who came through that common experience. They always wanted a better day for their children. Even through the hardships of the 1800s and the early 1900s, this is the place, unbeknownst to them, that better day would start. Yeah.
All right. That was C.L. Bryant from Runaway Slave. He created this movie. So check it out. Look up Runaway Slave. Someone told me the sound and the lips are off. Well, that's streaming, my friends. Sorry. It was on where I am. And how do you like this glass just floating in zero gravity? I'm in my space capsule here. Pardon my there. Woo, isn't that amazing? I can make it float. Woo. All right. Gotta love the magic. But the reason why I played that is, okay, people are bringing a lot of attention to the fact that the founding fathers, most of them, if not all of them, had slaves. I don't think it was all of them, but it was a large chunk of them. And that was just that was what it was at the time. But they also, even Thomas Jefferson talked about how it was a bad thing and we couldn't move beyond that until we corrected slavery. And they set the stage to eventually, this is the only country in history to actually go to war internally in a civil war to free slaves. And that's a big deal. And C.L. Bryant kind of addresses this in a sense. And I find we can't apply the standards of today to 250 some years ago. We just can't do it. So we got to learn from it and move beyond it. And that's, unfortunately, the people that are manipulating are the ones getting all the attention. But I still think they're still a microcosm of the entire population. They aren't like 60% of the population. I think it's more like 3, if that. So, all right. So I want to get into a little bit, and I want to talk about a little bit later about term limits and the such in Congress, maybe even state government, that type of thing. But I want to bring on a guest. He looks like he's patiently waiting in my green room there. It's his name is Cliff DeTemple, and he's actually running for United States Congress in the Wisconsin's 5th congressional district. He's actually one of 2 Republicans running in a primary there. And I'm going to bring him on to the stream here. Hello, Cliff. Can you hear me?
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, we can definitely hear you as well. And every once in a while, there might be a little delay occasionally. So if we talk over each other, that's all right. It happens a little bit.
Okay.
So perfect. Well, Cliff, tell the watchers or listeners a little bit about yourself and what made you decide to put your hat in the ring and run for Congress in a very difficult year where you had to get 1,000 signatures, yet everybody was social distancing. You got to. And all the candidates had to do with that who are running for Congress all over the state, but all over the country, actually. But what possessed you to do this?
Great. Well, the first thing that possessed me was, if you're going to use the word possessed, to jump in the pit here of politics, was my 11-year-old daughter. I've got an 11-year-old daughter, and I'm concerned what the future is going to be. We just see all the things going on out there. People have got to get involved. You see so many people out there talking about politics, complaining about politics, but so few people get into politics and actually try to fix those things. So I'm not going to miss that opportunity. I'm going to go in and I'm going to try to do what I can to fix the problems that we had. You mentioned about getting the signatures. You know, when we first started putting the plan and we made the announcement that I was going to run back in September, we had this great plan all set out for canvassers to go out, talk to people. We were going to go to festivals. That plan was thrown out the door back in March, and we had to come up with a new, really creative plan. And that was even difficult. But it was done. We got it. We're glad we're doing it. And now we've got a primary. And do you remember when the last time we had a primary in the 5th district? Probably been a while.
Yeah, and those of you who don't know, that's Jim Sensenbrenner's old seat. And your opponent, of course, is Scott Fitzgerald, who's the speaker of the majority leader in the state Senate. So he's well known in politics also as well. So tell me a little bit about your background. What have you done with your life, so to speak?
Well, I've been told I'm the 3 busiest people around, but so a couple things. One, I'm coming with a business background. I've had a business for 18 years that I started, built it up here in Wisconsin, so I'm a small business owner. Before that, I was in the military reserve. I am still in the military reserve. So for 33 years, I've served in the Coast Guard Reserve, close to 18 countries, numerous deployments around. That gave me a lot of insight in what was going on in the world and in government and government as well. So those are some of the things that I wanted to bring to the table in politics. Putting those two together makes you very busy. Adding on running for Congress is the third hat now, very difficult. And then I'm also very big in the Boy Scout program. I do a lot of stuff with the Scouts in Wisconsin, teaching merit badges, doing the national jamborees. So those are some ways that I get to serve my community that I love to do.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that about you and in your involvement with the Boy Scouts as well. Now you have a daughter you mentioned and 11 years old, and I'm sure she has a lot of questions seeing what's going on out there in the news and the chaos that a lot of kids are frightened about COVID-19 or I call it the Chinese Communist Party virus, whatever you want. But what what are you hearing from her, and what are you saying to her, and what would you say to kids, like the Boy Scouts you're working with and everything?
I want to do some more stuff with the Boy Scouts. That program is even on hold with COVID. Everybody's blocking all the activities. I don't think we're going to see all the damage that this has done to the kids for a while. All the summer programs have ended, all of their interaction. If the kids are between 8 and 12 years old, this is some growth time period. A couple months in the house is like years to them. So it's very difficult on them. It's probably harder on them than it is for us. We still get to do our work, on the internet. We get to go to some offices, but they were locked in. They did not get to see their friends every day. They didn't have that interaction at school that they need to develop. A lot of things, you do hold back. You don't let them watch all the news because there's just nothing good out there right now. So I think in a few years, we're going to look back at this and say, this was really bad on our kids, and it's going to take us years to get caught back up in their progress.
Yeah, imagine the psyche, the socialization, just going outside and playing in the dirt with their friends, in the park or whatever, or throwing the ball without getting, going playing a game of baseball without getting arrested.
What baseball? There's no baseball, no basketball, no soccer. There's nothing going on out there that they need.
Yeah, and it's been hard. I've got my youngest is 13, the same thing. It's like I'm trying to figure out ways to get him out of the house, just to go ride your bike, go ride your skateboard, catch your friends. And he's got friends whose parents are afraid, so they're not letting their kids out and stuff. It's difficult, even though they're not necessarily in the danger zone, so to speak, from the virus. But you get through the primary, and then you get into Congress, and it's a Republican district for the most part. So whoever wins the primary is likely to win. Stranger things have happened, but
we're not going to assume that. You never assume that, but it is a likely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I said likely. But the big chunk of that, Jim Sensenbrenner, he was there for 342 years.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. He's there for a while, ever since, I moved to Wisconsin at the end of 1982, the same year as the Brewers getting to the World Series. And then they lost, and I was like, we'll get them next year. I've been waiting for next year ever since. Mm-hmm. But he was in Congress then, and and he's been there all along. And then I remember, you hear things like Paul Ryan. He got into Congress, I think it was like 25 or 26 when he got into Congress, as young as you could be. And he was there for 22 years and before he retired. What are your thoughts on the concept of term limits?
I am a fan of term limits. In my issues page, term limits is one of my top issues. Let me give you some history on why I'm for term limits. In the military, you never stay at the same unit for your whole career. You move around. You never watch the same gate. You never watch the same door. You never do the same security zone constantly, because you become, you're not aware anymore. So by having term limits, we can rotate people through Congress, get people involved in politics. If you want to be in politics your whole life, great if that's your career path, but you don't have to be in the same position all the time. Congress is exactly one of those that I think we can set the example for. You are a representative there of the people. Being there for 40 years doesn't make you a better representative. What it makes you good at is getting hold of special interest money, and people know how to get hold of you. So by having term limits on congressional seats, we get people in there. You come back to your state, you can do something else. One of the things that I have is one of my mottos is devotion to duty, or devotion to this profession. That doesn't end when your term in politics ends. You can come out and do some other things. You can run for governor. You can run for state assembly. You can do those things. You can also be a consultant to Congress. You can help other congressmen. But we get people in there that have fresh looks on things. Don't sit around for 40 years. Even though they might be voting the way we want, it is good to get a fresh idea in there and move people through. I think there's more advantages to having term limits than not having term limits. Now, there's a reasonableness of it. Your first 2 years, what are you doing in Congress? You're trying to find the bathroom. You're trying to find your desk. Your second 2 years, your second term, if you get lucky and get voted in again, you finally get on some committees that are good. Okay, then maybe you can get in leadership in a couple terms later. So we need to address that. If everybody is only there for 8 to 10 years in Congress, then the system will work. If we have people there for 40 years and 50 years, they're going to control the leadership, and that's not going to be good for the whole Congress as a whole. So I would like to see the initial term that you're in maybe be extended. Let's say 3-year terms or 4-year terms, maxing out at 8 to 10, depending on how many years they go. The reason is extending them. If you only have a 2-year term, you spend 25% of your time in Congress in that term campaigning for your next term. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. You're non-productive. We need to make congressional seats productive, get the work done, and make it happen. But if we're rotating people through, we aren't going to get your Pelosi's, your Schumers out there that are trying to control everything. We're going to get people that are going to have enthusiasm and be ready to do the job.
And I like that concept. Ultimately, to change the terms, I agree. I think it should be 4 years, and then do 1/3 of the House every 4 years, or something every 2 years. Kind of like they do in the Senate, stagger it. But obviously, that's going to be a huge leap, because there's no way, even if Congress were to vote for term limits, it'll get knocked down by the Supreme Court. The only way, the likelihood is it'll get knocked down by the Supreme Court, because you're changing powers as defined in the Constitution. It says 2 years, so you have to change the Constitution.
Yep.
And that would take a constitutional amendment, and we all know how that might go, especially in this climate. And it was interesting, to segue. That's how our forefathers designed it. I don't think they envisioned in their mind who the hell would want to make this a career. They probably, you were supposed to be a statesman. You go there, and then you go back to your life.
Yep.
And now they go there and they don't leave, for crying out loud. we need some fresh blood. I mean, we got Gwen Moore, Jim Sensenberg. I love the guy. He's voted right most of the time. The guy's brilliant, absolutely brilliant as a jurist and what have you. But fresh blood. We've got, Ron Kind, Sean Duffy. He was there for a while and he stepped down, to be with his, he and his wife have, 14, 15, 20 kids. So he's a busy guy, and who knows what his next step will be. Maybe he'll run for governor or something like that. So you have the most important thing is you have to get through a primary.
Yep.
And how have you found it so far, reception? Because you're taking on someone who, well known in politics, in Wisconsin politics for a long time, so much so that it was almost, I hate to say this, but it was almost like the field was cleared for him.
Yeah.
And, it is what it is, but what are people saying when you're talking to them?
The great thing about doing the signatures, getting your nominations and going around, is you get to talk to a lot of people. I really enjoyed going door to door, talking to people. I really missed being able to talk to people at festivals. You get to talk to a lot more people on a short period of time. It's great. I got out to Brookfield for some farmers market. You get to talk to people. It's really a great way to do it. I've gone around to a lot of businesses. So the reception has been outstanding. They want somebody that has some background out there, that's run a business. They want someone that is not a politician. I think that is something all of America is looking for, is they don't want a politician. I think if you put a politician and a used car salesman together, I think they would rather have a used car salesman run for politics than a politician. So it's so talking to people out there, it was really inspiring to keep it going and say, hey, this is what people want. They want someone that's not a politician, someone that's run a business, someone that's had some experience out there, someone that's not looking at a paycheck. They're looking at trying to do good that's out there. So I've had a fantastic time with that. When we had COVID, and I went around and talked to some businesses when they first started opening up, I learned some things that I didn't expect. There were some companies that did better, didn't think about it. So that's the idea of representing your district, is being able to go out there and talk to those people. Because if you just talk to the big companies, you just talk to the corporations, you're going to hear something different than when you talk to those small businesses. Those businesses that have on Main Street in West Bend, those businesses in Brookfield, they are different than those big companies. And you know what? I heard different things. I had a bicycle shop that said they had their best month than they've had in 2 years. Didn't think about that, because for them, there was some advantages to COVID. There were some bars, that smaller ones, that closed down the alcohol sales but started serving on the curb and doing takeout. They said they were making more money doing takeout than when they had their bar open.
Serving alcohol?
No. Serving sandwiches and lunches.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a whole different conversation.
You just need to open up the streets like Bourbon in New Orleans, I guess. But no, so they were doing better. Wasn't what I expected, but going around talking to those people. So being new to politics, you still have that open mind to go around. When you've been in politics too long, you start to put those blinders on. And the reason is you got your special interests. You got that money that's coming into you from your donors, and you start looking in that direction. Going back to that term limits thing, if you have 8 to 10 years in Congress, you are not going to see that money show up like you do when someone's been there for 20, 30, 40 years. So that's been the reception I've got was outstanding. A lot of people also didn't know there was even going to be a primary coming up. They just thought they would vote for Sensenbrenner. I had one of the best conversations with 3 ladies in a park once when I told them who I was and what I was doing. And they're like, no, we're voting for Sensenbrenner. He's our man. And I said, no, he's retiring. And they just would not accept that he was retiring. And then when they finally all talked to themselves and said, you know what, he's retiring, I got these hugs from these ladies in a park. It was just great experience being able to talk to people out there. So I enjoyed that part. I want to bring that enthusiasm to Congress.
Awesome. Well, I want to, one of the things that you're going to have to likely face, even as a freshman congressman, you're walking into a whole new world right now. What I'm hoping for is that the Democrats are completely deflated with the Donald Trump victory. So maybe they'll calm down a little bit. But the reality is you're going to face a highly marginalized Democrat Party. We have COVID out there, which there are, 10 different ideas of how bad it is and how not bad it is. Nobody knows the truth. It's just kind of like, okay, we got to just let it work its course. But what do you think you can do as a congressman to help with that situation one way or another? What do you think Congress should do, could do, and to help? Because obviously the economy is going to be weird. A lot of businesses are going out of business. There's just no question about it. And because the economy shut down, I'm normally the type of person who says, let the free market work. When I didn't think TARP should have happened. I thought the market should have worked back then. This is a situation where the government said, mainly state governments, but we're shutting everything down. So the free market was gone. So that stimulus was necessary. Do you think there's more stimulus needed? And if so, to what extent? And where would it go? And how can you be effective being one of 435?
Great. Well, being a small business owner, I saw firsthand what was needed for that stimulus. One, Can the government do more stimulus? We can always do stimulus. Does it mean it has to come in the form of a handout with money? No. I don't think handing out the money was the way to go in this last one. I saw too much fraud with the Paycheck Protection Act. That was hastily put through Congress. They thought everybody needed it. There was too many riders in that, paying off everything from theaters to all different kinds of things. But the Paycheck Protection Act, it was immediately told out that it was going to be a grant. Well, when you get free money, everybody's hands out, even the businesses that didn't need it. When I hear the Ruth Chris out there getting $100 million, that's not a small business that needed it. The small business was the 20, 30 person employees here in Wisconsin that needed it, that I spoke to, that couldn't get it. There were small businesses. One, a friend of mine I know through the Chamber of Commerce, 33 people they lost. They had to close their business down because they did therapies for people. Those are the companies that needed that stimulus that the Paycheck Protection Act couldn't get to fast enough. So from what can the government do? One, we need to go ahead and put, if it's going to be stimulus and money, it needs to be loans to the small business. Go ahead and put a -1% loan out there. This is something that helped Japan rebuild after World War II. You know, get a lot of money into circulation to the business. You got to pay it back, but you don't have to pay it all back. You pay a -1% over 30 years, so it's reduced, but we're going to stir the economy. Those businesses are going to be able to build, they're going to be able to expand, they're going to be able to pay for training for their employees. That's what we needed. Just handing out $1,200 to somebody, it's a short-term fix. Sure, we see people go out, what are you going to do? You're going to buy a television. You might get that, you might get a new refrigerator. You might get something. Those are important things, but it's not going to give us that long-term growth. What's going to give us a long-term growth is that money in a small business in West Bend that can build a factory to build tools that's going to be able to be sold around the world. Those are the things that are going to be important to do. So can the government do stimulus? Sure. I am not a fan of just handing out the money without some return back for it. There's many other things we can do. The second thing is Congress needs to show some leadership. Everybody needs to show leadership that's in a political position. If you're the governor, if you're a legislator, you need to show some leadership. We cannot be slamming each other and mudslinging constantly. We need to work together and make some stuff happen. I have all years following politics. I think this is the worst I've seen it now in the last few years of just mudslinging and not getting anything done. There's a lot of great bills out there in Congress right now. Oddly, some of the same bills are proposed by multiple people, but they need to get done, and they're not working on it because they've got so many other things that are sidetracking them and keeping them occupied. So I think we need to get them on track. Congress needs to stay on track and keep to a schedule and make some stuff happen.
All right. Well, let's see. Congress, I'm going to do some rapid fire subjects here. Pardon the pun. Second Amendment.
Yeah. Okay. One of my favorite. Second Amendment is, I am a big advocate. I'm such an advocate. It is on every one of my yard signs. It is on every one of the things I hand out to people. People that don't understand the Second Amendment immediately go, "Oh, you're a gunslinger," or the new word I just heard this week, an ammosexual. It's a new one.
What?
An ammosexual. Okay?
Wow, that's new.
Someone that loves the Second Amendment. I don't understand. Someone that loves the Constitution, giving them a derogatory name, but it has nothing to do with guns. It has the right to defend yourself, not just from someone breaking into your house, but it has the right for the people to defend themselves against the government. So you look at history, and we know they're not teaching history anymore. They're not teaching it the way it used to be taught years ago. And we can see that when people want to tear down monuments of Lincoln this past week. But you look at history, the right to bear arms is critical. Right before many governments of the world, China, Germany, Russia, took the weapons and firearms from their people, what happened? Mass murder, slaughter by the government themselves. So the Second Amendment is very important to me, as the whole Constitution is. The Constitution has kept us together as a nation longer than any other nation out there, and it's because of that piece of paper.
Looks like Carolina has an ammo-sexual shirt, t-shirt. Okay. Next subject on the rapid fire, abortion.
Yes. Is there more to that, or are you just going to say that word? That's a bad word. All right, bad word. I am a pro-life person. It is as well on every one of my yard signs out there. Pro-life does not mean just abortion. It is keeping dignified life in all stages. If you can't respect life at its beginning, what happens at the end? Do we just put the elderly out to pasture? Do we just stick them in homes and just let them sit there? No. Pro-life is all throughout life. I am not a fan of the death penalty, but I understand it's necessary. The abortion, no, it's off. It needs to be the Planned Parenthood needs to be unfunded. You know, people have the right to put their money where they want to put it, and if they want to do it, that's their right. I don't feel the government, the federal government, needs to be in that business, and we need to defund some of those things that support abortion. So, tough subject. I get slammed on it every single day on Facebook by all the haters because they immediately throw out and say, it's my choice, it's my body. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with, I am a freedom person. I believe you should have the freedom to make choices, but your freedom should never infringe on someone else's freedoms. And an unborn child has no way to defend themselves. So we need to help defend them for them.
Okay. Seeing what's going on in the chaos in Minnesota, that type of thing. Your thoughts on the death of George Floyd and your thoughts on the, I don't want to stack the question, but the reaction to George Floyd's death.
Well, let's start with that reaction. You mean the Antifa plan book, the plans that they've been trying for a few years that they've stocked off and were had ready to go the minute they could find an opportunity. That was the reaction. You look at all the things that occurred during that, there's no way it's spontaneous. This thing was planned. It was well executed. It was almost like a military operation. That needs to be addressed. And I am sure the FBI, ATF, they are looking into it. No one dying in custody for any reason is acceptable. It's just not. But let's look at a few things here. A lot of people are dying in Chicago every day, and no one's rioting over that. They rioted over one person up there, and again, one person too many. But the police do a darn good job. There are, you got bad apples there. We understand that they need to be removed. But overall, the police do a darn good job. This defending the police is insane. I mean, I can't comprehend that. What's that?
Defunding, you mean?
Defunding. Yeah, defunding yeah. What did I say? Defriending or something?
Yeah.
But yeah, defunding is insane because we need the police. Also, the police represent the government, and people are immediately looking at them they're looking at them as individuals too. Yes, they're an individual, but they represent the laws of our nation. They are there enforcing the laws. Everybody wants to do more training for police. Well, what about training for citizens? Don't break the law. It's a good one that I'd like more people to follow. We have repeat criminals, and it's time after time they're building up to more and more, and then these things happen. One of the things that any congressman, any legislator, both state, any level, that wants to enforce or create a law against the police needs to have some experience there. I invite them to do a ride along with the police. The police did it. I don't think we're doing it anymore. I think it's almost difficult for people, civilians, to ride along with police to see what is actually happening out there. So I invite anybody that's going to make any law for or against the police to do a ride along. Second, do a judgmental shoot at a police range. Not live firing, but actually watch one of the 12 rounds without being killed 3 times. I'm going to give you a compliment, because it's very difficult. The scenarios that they're under. They're simple walking down the street and they're attacked verbally with weapons. Those things are happening every day. But they got to go
even more so.
Yeah. So the training they're under is very difficult. Being in the military, we had, your training is different. There's a lot of very similar things that are done in law enforcement in the military, but there are some very specific rules of engagement. When you're overseas, not saying that life is easy, but those decisions sometimes are easier because you have an enemy in front of you. But the police, they don't know who the enemy is. They don't know when they knock on someone's door because it's a husband and wife disputing, that they're going to open that door and someone there's going to have a gun because they're extremely upset at the world. So the police have a tough job, but this rioting has just got to stop. We can't have a civil society when people just riot for the simplest thing, especially before the trial. If the police officers are convicted in a trial jury, and they're convicted, they're convicted. We can't try anybody, a police officer or a criminal, in the media. It's not how our jury system was set up, to try someone in the jury. Let that trial play out, then we can make our decisions. And I think it gives us that cooling off period of time to make a reasonable approach to what happened.
Yeah, I agree with that. My concern with that, with the charging of those officers, when I took a lot of flack from people, because it's universal. Everybody agrees that this police officer overstepped his bounds. He's responsible, and the other ones that didn't interject, but they're responsible for Floyd's death, regardless of what he had in his system and stuff like that. At that point, he was, under control. They had him contained. They were responsible for his life at that point. But
I'm going to stop you right there, because I just want to comment on that. Is at the trial, we will hear all that, and what we've seen has always been news clips and what's been in the media. None of us have privy to any cameras that the police have. We aren't privy to that. And
they have body cams.
What's that?
They have body cams.
Exactly. I don't know that we've seen all of that evidence. So
so it's gonna be interesting. Yeah, and I was saying in the beginning, was what was I going to say? Negligent homicide or manslaughter. Yeah. I didn't think they could charge murder 1, murder 2. Right. I proving intent. I mean, I guess they're going to try to use their former connection, because I guess they worked together as bouncers at a bar or something. I don't know. But my fear for them playing to the media and playing to the public attention, they're going for murder.
Yep.
They got a huge burden right there.
Right. And if they can't prove it, and they just walk out with nothing, I think we're even going to have more riots then. So again, I wish everyone could have waited till after the trial and made our opinions then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just, and it's not to say that there aren't issues. You mentioned earlier about police, there's some bad seeds and stuff like that. I saw this great video from John Stossel, libertarian extraordinaire, but he said his video was titled "Defund the Police Unions." I think that officer that had his knee on George Floyd's neck had disciplinary problems for, like they said, 16, 18 times.
Yeah.
Why was he still a police officer? Then it dawned on me. Yeah. Union protection.
Right. The unions do some good for them. Look what it's done to the teachers union. You can't get rid of teachers. Same thing. There's another one. Any union that gets as large as they've become, it's not good for the public anymore. So that's a separate issue to address there with the union. But I do see some good with some of them to help protect. When the unions are helping do training and they look after their members that way, great. When they're not looking after the general public, that's going to be bad. Now, every police officer out there probably has a complaint filed against them. And one complaint, one of the things I was very much against was listing complaints on police officers, because you're just going to see massive lists out there. A police officer bumps into somebody on the street. What's that person do? They file a complaint. Now, one time, we understand. He does it once a week. All right, now there's a pattern and it needs to be addressed. But I was not a fan of listing everybody out there. I believe the police can manage this. We have instances that have occurred, but it's not overwhelming. This isn't happening every single day out there. I think we're more aware of things because of the news, and you get a few things on video, and it spreads across the country like wildfire, and we think this is happening every single day. But no, I wish we could have video of all the people that were saved or helped by the police. You don't see that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The excitement, and how many, more people are saved, and more people are saved that we don't know about it because they got a criminal off the street.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So how many potential people did they save for that? Okay. New subject. The biggest elephant in the room, Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. All right. Love what he's done. Love it. Okay. Being in the military for so many years, I've seen so many different things occur. Going 4 or 5 years ago, we were all concerned what was happening to the military. In the last 3 years, the military has got enthusiasm. It's back on its feet. We've got a great strategy out there. So I love what he was doing there. There's a lot of other things. The economy is booming. Everybody loves to hate. He is like the best person to hate. Everybody loves to hate him because he is successful. He's done things. It's amazing. I need to find what the phenomenon is when somebody does so well that people hate them. I don't know if it's jealousy. I don't know what it is, but
that's exactly what it is.
It's it. But he has done very well. And I'm going to look at this. Anybody whose family supports him like his kids do shows something. If they're there by his side helping him out, that shows something. That's an important thing. When your family gets involved with you in politics and they feel just as strongly as you, my simplest thing is he could be retired on a yacht on his own island somewhere. And where is he? He's in Washington, D.C. trying to fix things.
Taking on all kinds of fire.
Unbelievable. And the amount of good that he has done in the last 3 years, with all of the problems he's had with the media. They still won't drop the Russian thing. They keep bringing it up.
It's
how
back.
Is that possible? I don't understand how that's even possible.
All roads lead to Putin.
Right.
What's her name?
Today
Pelosi.
And today it was, now the Russians are paying hitmen out there in Afghanistan, and he didn't know about it. Oh, man.
The president is notified of credible threats. If it's not credible, they're not going to say anything, even if it exists. But it's like they're digging new stuff up. It's just, I hope they're digging their own hole, but it's craziness. So obviously you support
the briefings that I sat through in the military on my little parts of the world were so small, and they took forever. I can't imagine what his morning is like every single day. It's got to be overwhelming. Overwhelming.
That's why I don't begrudge a president golfing. I didn't complain when Obama golfed or anything like that. The president is a 24-hour job, whether you like it or not. It is. They are on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They could be woken up at any point. They have to go anywhere at a moment's notice, whatever. They are under immense pressure. So yeah, I don't mind the recreation and stuff like that. But especially President Trump, like you said, he could be on an island somewhere sunning himself. He's literally, as far as I know, the only politician in the entire country who's not taking a salary.
Yep, exactly. No, he's taking a loss. Not only is he not taking his salary, he's taking his loss. You know, I don't believe any of his children are compensated for anything. I think they're doing it in the goodness of their heart to help the country. So think of it, they are losing millions every day that for us. So I got to give them credit for that. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Well, obviously you've got a very, I like underdog situations and stuff like that. You've got, and I don't.
So you're talking about Fitzgerald now?
Yeah. I'm completely switching gears. We're moving. We're going down to the micro level now. It's always difficult running for Congress to begin with. It's difficult running against someone so well known. He's been well known because of the Act 10 battles and all that stuff. And his time, is running the Senate. How do you overcome that? And I mean, as far as what he's done versus what you do, you're less known than he is. However, what have you been doing in Republican circles as well, and in recent years? What makes you? How are you going to overcome that type of branding that he has right now?
Well, a couple things. I could not be doing anything in politics until last October. So last September I was working at U.S. Transportation Command. Being down there, it's very difficult to be in politics when you're still assigned to a combatant command like that was. So with that, I was at those levels that I was working down there. I couldn't be active in politics. You vote, you do all that, but you can't be running campaigns and so forth. In October 1, I transferred to base New Orleans as my reserve unit. That is for rebuilding for hurricanes, training with reserves. I can get into politics now. So that's one of the biggest things, is why people said, hey, why weren't you in politics all this time? Well, there is some politics in the military. You're doing a lot. So running a small business, being in the reserve, which is almost a full-time job every single day, I didn't have the time for the politics. Now I am. And I'm going to take what I've learned and all that experience to it now. A couple things in running the campaign against Fitzgerald, because we're doing a primary. I want to keep this positive. We've both done some good things, and I want to keep that positive. I am not against Scott Fitzgerald. I am for him at the state level. I think he's got the experience at the state level. I don't want to run for state politics. I feel I'm better qualified in federal politics at the congressional level because of that experiences around the world. I've seen Kuwait, the Iraqs. I've seen those places that Congress seems to, has got to vote on things in those areas. I've seen Central America and worked with, as part of the Southwest border down there. So I've seen that stuff. Two major things that I've worked on in the last few years was the BP oil spill and Hurricane Maria relief. So I saw a lot of money being done there. I've seen that at the federal level. So the differences between me and Scott are going to be, he might have experience with the state level. I think he should have took Evers on a lot stronger than he has, but he's got that. I've got that experience going to be at the federal level with things that I've seen. I want to bring some stuff to get the deficit down. That's something you don't work on at the state level. That's more of, things you're going to see working in the military. I can see how we can get rid of spend down. And spend down is something I've talked to congressmen about. When I get to talk with, sometimes I'll give presentations for their people getting certificates to join the military. And I always mention to them, I said, hey, when are we going to address spend down in Congress? They don't even know what that is, because they haven't. And I tell them spend down is going to any federal building and going to the loading dock any day in September and you see nonstop delivery trucks to these loading docks because they're trying to spend every one of their remaining dollars in September before the new year. That is something we want. We get rid of spend down alone, we're going to balance our budget. It's a severe thing there. So I know
use it or lose it.
Right, right.
Okay.
I put a plan together for that. A business does not do spend down. In my business, I don't blow every dollar I made on December 31st. If I did, I wouldn't be back in business in January because I'll miraculously, my bank account doesn't miraculously get a few $1 million on January 1 again. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
So as we're getting close to the close of the show here, and I talk about one of my favorite analogies in the world is I use the iPhone. The iPhone is the most brilliantly marketed product on the planet. Everybody knows what it is. Even if you don't have an iPhone, even if you don't have a phone, you know what an iPhone is. And the way I look at it is never once did Steve Jobs say what the iPhone could do. It was always what you could do with the iPhone.
Yep.
Politicians are much the same way. You're a product that you're effectively selling. I hate to use that word, but it really is. So what can the 5th District, Wisconsin, and the United States do with Cliff DeTemple in Congress?
Well, I'm going to be the and then the voice. Congressmen, and they always say, "Oh, what's your agenda? What's your agenda?" I shouldn't have an agenda. I should be able to take what the 5th District wants and take that to Congress. And you get that by listening. You got to listen with compassion, and you got to listen to everybody. Running on the Republican platform, I'm a Republican, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to listen to Democratic stuff. I had this out at the in Brookfield. I had Democrats come up and say, "I'm never going to vote for you, and you're this and that." And then all you do is you ask a few questions. Well, what do you like about the Democratic Party? What do you dislike about the Republican? And you start this conversation, and you realize sometimes you want the exact same thing. It's just how you get there is different. That's one of the things that I want to take there. I don't have 26 years in politics where I put those blinders on, I close my ears, and I only listen to my party. I can go there and bring the voice, and by getting it from listening to what's out there. So I want to do that. I think that's an important thing that the 5th District can get. Next, the 5th District, sense-and-benders for a long time, but we didn't get embraced in the technology. I am not a whiz in technology, but being in small business, I've got to look at the technology that's out there. The constituents of the 5th District need to be aware of what's going on out there. We have technology out there that every member of the 5th District could find out what's being voted on, what's being looked at, and they can voice their opinion that way. One of the things that Sensenbrenner did a good job of was his town halls, because when I go around and talk to people, they say, "Hey, these town halls are great." I said, "Well, yeah, but he had to go in person and do that. We can do town halls. We're doing one right now." I mean, this is something that he did not do. So
new normal.
Yeah. So this is the kind of thing that we need to do now with the 5th District. We need to bring it up into some technology. And I think there's going to be some stuff out there that we haven't even started yet in politics. I think with technology, especially now, the way we are interacting with COVID, working at our desks and still being able to talk to everybody, it's going to be important subjects out there. Let's embrace that technology. So that's another thing I'm going to bring out there. And then the third thing, enthusiasm. I'm an enthusiastic person. I love talking with people, and I am enthusiastic to go there and work in Congress to get the stuff done. One of my first things when I announced I was running was, I am not here to feed the media circus. I have a scorecard internally. I've built a scorecard, and it says when I get to Congress in this year, I want to accomplish this, and in 8 years, I want to be back in the state of Wisconsin, either doing something else different in politics, but I'm going to be out of Congress. That's one of the things. But one of my first things was, How long will it take till I'm a meme? You know, it's kind of funny, but how many politicians, you know, Trump made it maybe less than a couple hours and he was a meme. So, you know, that we don't need to feed the media circus. We need to take the voice and take that to Congress. So I'm not there representing myself. I'm representing a district.
Well, that's the way I look at it. I've always said a politician has their agenda. A statesman has your agenda.
Exactly.
And
Good,
that's
well
the way I
put.
look at it. I know, I said it, I rock. But how can people find you?
They can find me on my website. It's DeTemple.us. They can find me on Facebook at Cliff DeTemple for Congress. Facebook's a great place because we post where I'm going to be, places. We go to a lot of events. We've got a lot of great bars and restaurants that have been hosting events for me. I'm bringing in Second Amendment people. I bring in the pro-life people. We get together at a bar and we talk about some politics. But the best place to start is going to be on the website there as well. And I encourage everybody to get out on August 11th and vote. You know, we haven't had a primary for a while, and this is going to be an important election. I think everybody needs to get. One of my big things too with the primary is because why do we need a primary? Well, we talk about issues. We're talking about issues right now. Once we get to the general election, we're going to be how bad is the other opponent and how good am I versus that. But now we get to talk about issues and we're bringing them up. You just brought up about Second Amendment, pro-life. Those are things we get to talk about now. And I'm hoping we get to continue talking about them during the general election. But during those time periods, it's mudslinging and it's the part of politics and elections I can't stand. I enjoy this part. I enjoy the debates. Hopefully we'll get some debates during this primary season. I'd love to see a couple of those in different areas so people can get out and ask us questions and bring up what they're interested in. Would be great feedback.
Yep. Well, it's nice seeing that, you guys are being cordial, and primaries can be difficult, but I think it brings out, like you said, you bring out issues. It brings attention to a race that wouldn't get any attention. And that's the whole thing. And quite honestly, I think it's important for somebody to earn it, especially in an open seat. So either one of you winning is going to earn it. And, I'm on the guys, I will support the winner one way or another, and at that point, I'm remaining neutral at this point, but I'm very, because you are in my district, you would represent me. So, and it was nice get to know you. I had some people in the feed who are also in your district, so that's very good. Well, Cliff, thank you so much. I said 10 to 15 minutes, but we're here over an hour. But that's the way it goes. It's good. I love your passion for it. I think it's important. No matter what, I think, make sure you stay in it because I think you've got a lot to offer, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's next for you here. And there's always possibilities. They said President Trump wouldn't win.
Yep.
Yep. I look at Rebecca Kleefisch. That's one of my favorite stories. Those of you in Wisconsin who are watching, I've got a few people from out of state too, but Rebecca Kleefisch ran for lieutenant governor. She went to the convention, and at the convention, she lost the nomination of the official nomination of the party, and they threw all the money at one of her opponents, who was the chosen one, so to speak, and she won in spite of that. So I always think it's possible. You never say never. So, but I appreciate you spending some time with me tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good discussions.
Like to say investing some time, and look forward to seeing more. We'll have you on the show again later as things get closer. It'll be kind of fun. I'll extend an offer to Fitzgerald if he wants to come on board. He knows where his people can find me, and he knows where he's going to find me. I'm going to have some other congressional candidates on here as well from other districts as well. So, but I think it's awesome that you're investing some time with people who are voters. And
Great.
I think you've done a great job. Great conversation. And I will talk to you soon. Thanks for joining.
Thanks. Hey, everybody have a good night. Appreciate it.
Good night. All right. That was Cliff DeTemple running for U.S. Congress. I almost said State Assembly. No, for U.S. Congress. And he is in the 5th Congressional District. That is Jim Sensenbrenner's old seat. He's retiring this year. And it's been forever that we have an open seat in this district. And it's Cliff DeTemple versus Scott Fitzgerald. And it's going to be interesting. And like I said, they're being cordial. And I think it's very impressive because these things can get down and dirty, and they're both on the same side. So that's important. In the end, one of these guys is going to represent the 5th district. And I think it's important that people, no matter who they're supporting, in the end of the day, support the winner. We cannot let the seat get into Democrat hands. And I guarantee they're going to pour a boatload of money into this seat to try to pick one off. All right. Now we've got an opportunity to pick one off in the 3rd Congressional District. That's like Western Wisconsin. That's Ron Kine. He's a Democrat there. And the Republicans, for whatever reason, in 2016, did not have a congressional candidate. And Trump won the district. So we need to make sure that there's a potential for a pickup there. So everybody, I am going to head off the air. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate everybody's feedback. Make sure you spread the word. And it's DeTemple.us. That was his website. And check it out. And make your decision. You got time. Some of you are already early voting. So now you've got some more information that you didn't have before. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. And I will talk to you soon. Have an awesome night. And I'm thinking I'll be on here Friday night. I'm not entirely sure, but you never know. Talk to you soon, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.